David, I want to start with you. When it comes to misinformation, again, Facebook has been the platform we're looking at, but Gab kind of looks like a similar beast here without the moderation that we see Facebook and Twitter pushing into. How do you bridge this gap? How do you keep this stuff from getting out there?
There's no question that we've seen sort of the most hateful dialogue moving to these more specialized platforms. And as your previous guests were saying, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, these are all new platforms for political distortion. There's no easy answer to what we do. I think we need Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and other major sites to continue their efforts to essentially ensure that hate speech is kept off, particularly threats of violence. One of the things I really worry about is a site like Gab, which has no resources, which is very small, which primarily attracts people with very fringe views. It doesn't even have the financial capability to really do the moderation if they were to, for example, say, you cannot make threats of violence here. They clearly haven't been doing that. So that's why this got through.
And I can't help but ask myself if this is what Gab would be like if there was no, what Facebook would be like if there was no moderation. They would look like a Gab. I mean, Josh, Facebook has dragged its feet on calling itself a media company. They've been slow to get into the content moderation game. Is this kind of fuel for them to take a closer look at what exactly is going on the site and put the resources that a lot of folks have been calling for to kind of keep an eye on things?
Yeah, I think all of the larger social media platforms are really trying to say the right things about this. Over the last year or two, they've kind of increasingly owned up to it, at least rhetorically, and said, we're going to try what we're doing. We're going to try to do something different. They're not quite sure what to do, and so that's why you're seeing it be difficult. Meanwhile, with Gab, what you're seeing is a lot of how these companies talked, before they realized they were important, saying, hey, people are going to say what they're going to say, and we're just a conduit. And
I mean, the idea of being a haven for free speech it seems like kind of a noble statement here from Gab. Again, how are folks like out in the world, users who are reading, supposed to parse through what is real and what is not?
Yeah, I think with Gab in particular, it's worthwhile to point out that they have two sort of conflicting messages that they will make. The first is it will say, we're a free speech platform. How can you possibly be against that? And at the same time, their CEO, Andrew Torba, is sort of very familiar with the sort of standard, angry, right-wing rhetoric. He's very comfortable in those worlds. And so he'll say these, he'll sort of say those things while also giving him distance from those things and saying, well, you can put anything you want on Gab, so you can't really hold me accountable.
And David, a lot of these platforms, I mean, a platform used to just be a platform, right? There was no moderation. That was kind of the beauty of these social media sharing sites, the internet itself. Folks are picking their camps now. What does all of this say about the ecosystem of the internet these days? Who is a media company, who is not? Is that even a thing?
No, I think that's a really important question. I personally believe, talking to a lot of people about Facebook almost every day, that Facebook's only recourse to the problems that it faces with hate speech, with political manipulation, is to move more and more towards viewing itself as a media company, which means it's responsible for what's there. But the volume of stuff that's there is so gigantic that they will need an amazing number of new employees, as well as every last tool that artificial intelligence can give them. And even then, they probably won't be able to keep it down. I mean, your question before about what do we do about misinformation? Unfortunately, at the moment, we really don't have the answer to that, and that's scary.
And I want to get to something in terms of the knock-on effect of this. Obviously, the alleged Pittsburgh shooter posting on a site or posting on social media sites, folks don't want that out there. Lots of folks don't want that out there. But is there fear that tech companies start to tread into knocking out content and kind of starting an uproar about them being the gatekeepers?
Well, that's what happens when you're a media company. I mean, the New York Times is not going to publish an article, or Bloomberg's not going to put on here somebody who's advocating violence against Jews. I mean, that's the prerogative and the responsibility of a major media company. Now, unfortunately, we have these very marginal, little, low-financed, right-wing oriented sites like Gab, and there's others that really would like to see their usage increased by incendiary content. So that's the problem.